I think the strategy was to bring in a huge number of people, overwhelm the system, and in the chaos that ensued, they could steal the election.
Well, last weekend, we brought you an exclusive peek at a new documentary that claims to expose vast voter fraud and intimidation at the hands of the Obama campaign during the 2008 primaries. The filmmakers interviewed scores of voters who reported being locked out or scared away from polling places, plus witnesses who saw Obama organizers fraudulently filling out sign-in sheets and fudging delegate counts. They claim the result was that the Obama campaign stole the nomination from Hillary Clinton. John Siegel says he witnessed some of these violations as a volunteer on Hillary's campaign in El Paso, Texas, and that prompted him to help produce this new documentary called We Will Not Be Silenced, 2008. Good morning, John.
Good morning, Allison.
All right, so let's take a look at some of the alleged violations by the Obama campaign. You say that one of the most blatant ones was Obama organizers fraudulently filling out these voter sign-in sheets. Let's first listen to a campaign worker who was tasked with checking some of those names.
We went through these sign-in sheets, and many Obama people either came to the wrong precinct, they did not sign in properly, they did not show ID, or they had not voted that day. How they determine the delegates is on these sign-in sheets. So when so many people were registered illegally for Obama, they obtained a lined portion of the delegates.
So, John, could some of that just be chalked up to caucus chaos? What makes you think it was intentional voter fraud?
Was sort of the entrepreneurial nature of the Obama campaign. Some of it we know was orchestrated because we've got witnesses for that.
And what makes you think that it was widespread and not just that isolated incident there?
We saw incidents of collecting this data illegally early in the morning in El Paso, where I was, and by about 10 o'clock, there was a statewide pattern that the state campaign office alerted the media about.
And what about outside of Texas?
We saw the same thing from witnesses from most caucus states, where the general pattern was to buoy the Obama numbers and suppress the Hillary numbers, in many cases illegally.
You interviewed voters for the documentary who witnessed the Obama campaign actually calling in fake delegate counts to the state party headquarters. How is that even possible?
How that's possible is that at a caucus, there's a person who's authorized to report that number up the chain of command. And what we saw in the cases where there were illegalities is Obama organizers would get the computer password, physically take the sheet with the computer password, and call in a fake number. And that's what was reported to the media. In some cases, we corrected those numbers after the fact. But nonetheless, fake numbers were reported, and in many cases, they stood.
The Clinton campaign sent out 3 emergency press releases about this on the day of the Texas primary, trying to alert the press, but the press didn't cover it. Why didn't the Democratic National Committee, who you also alerted about this, why didn't they do something? They were supposed to be policing some of this.
That's a great question, because Howard Dean has a copy of all of the affidavits that the campaign collected, many of which I helped interview witnesses for. So the DNC has all of this documentation. The only thing that I can say is that the media dropped the ball. The media saw these press releases and didn't hold Howard Dean and the DNC to account for running an illegal operation.
So, John, now it's 2 years later. Obviously, President Obama is in office. What are you hoping will happen with this documentary?
We have to clean up the system because we're better than this. We can't steal votes from each other. We have to take caucus states and turn them into states where votes are protected like they are in most states like California and New York.
Because you think that the caucus system lends itself to violations.
That's right, because there's nothing you can do in a caucus state that will get you thrown in jail. If what the Obama campaign did in caucus states happened here in California, people would be in jail.
You were a volunteer for Hillary's campaign. Can't the Obama campaign say, look, this is just sour grapes. Your candidate lost and you're looking to blame someone?
Well, I mean, it's not me. I was an area captain responsible for dozens of other people that were reporting this information to me. There are thousands of voter complaints and hundreds of affidavits that the DNC has and that are available to you know, a credible organization that would want to investigate this. And the other thing is, you don't forget cheating, and you don't blame the victim of a crime for sour grapes.
John, I know that you were, one of the things that stunned you most about the primaries was this was not Republicans doing some sort of dirty trick to the Democrats or vice versa. This was Democrat against Democrat.
That was really the heartbreaking part, because that morning when I started experiencing these things directly, prior to that, I couldn't have believed that a Democratic campaign would do this to another Democratic campaign, because it had never happened in my experience. An Al Gore or a Bill Clinton would have never done this to the opposition, and there were never any allegations that happened. You know, the Chicago brand of politics that came into the caucus states is something new, and it set a new precedent that we have to change.
All right, well, we want to let our viewers know that we contacted the DNC to answer these charges, but they declined to do so. We've also asked Obama campaign staffers to come on, and we're hoping to have their side of the story for you next weekend. We will continue to cover this story every weekend until we get some answers about what happened. John Siegel, thank you for sharing the documentary with us and your story. We'll have a link to it on foxandfriends.com.
Thank you, Allison.
All right, coming up.